camping by himself. He still has a larger army. The Assyrians had massive amounts of armies amongst them. And the children of Israel were going to be one amongst them. And his emissary gets there and begins, if you remember here, he goes, hey, listen, come on out. And he talks to them in Judean, so everybody in the city can hear him talking about, come on out, come on, I'm your buddy, you come outside, I'll give you 2,000 horses. If you can put riders on them, it'll all be okay. You can come and eat my dates, you can drink my wine from the grape, we can have water from my cisterns. And the Jews say no. So then he goes, hey, look, you can either stay inside your wall and eventually you'll be drinking your own urine, eating your own dung until we starve you out. And then when we burn the gates, we're going to come in and kill you all. So come out and just avoid all this. And the Jews say no. And Hezekiah sends for Isaiah, and Isaiah prays. And then Isaiah comes to Hezekiah and tells Hezekiah to pray. And Hezekiah prays. And so we're going to look at Hezekiah here in a minute, starting in 21. And then when I left last week, if you were here, I said there will be an interesting character that will appear in 37 towards the end. Did anybody see this interesting character? Anybody look? We will address him. Don't worry, we'll get to him. So, starting in 21, Isaiah, the son of Amos, sent his word to Hezekiah, saying, thus says the Lord God of Israel, because you have prayed to me about Sennacherib, the king of Assyria. This is the word the Lord spoke against him. Now, some of this is a little bit more review because we looked at some of these verses. She despised you and mocked you. The virgin daughter of Zion has shaken her head behind you, the daughter of Jerusalem. You whom have reproached and blasphemed, against whom have you raised your voice and haughtily lifted your eyes against the Holy One of Israel. What Sennacherib did, he said, look, I have to... Dude, 21. That's 24. Does it go back to 21? No? Okay. Then don't worry. They got the ones in front of them. We'll keep trucking from here. Just go to 24 and stay there. Now that's 31. That one right there. We'll get to that one in a minute. Don't worry about it, okay? All right. That's next. I always like to weave a Persian flaw in. There's my Persian flaw for the day. Now, did you load up the right one? Okay, no, I'm kidding. What Sennacherib did when he sends his emissaries, look, we have destroyed every nation before us. And he starts listing off a bunch of cities. He goes, is this city still around? Is this city still around? Is this city still around? No, I flatten them. And in the ancient Near Eastern world, when an army defeats another army, they don't disconnect it from the political and the religious. It's all tied together. And it's still the same today. ISIS thinks they've got the upper hand because they're killing Christians and their God is happy and our God is weak. So they don't divorce the political from the military, from the cultural. It's all one giant, there it is. And so when Sennacherib comes, he says, look, I not only defeated the army, I not only crushed your city, but in so doing, my God killed your God. My God beat up on your God. And this is how they think about these things. And in the ancient Near Eastern world, if an army has a great victory over another army, it was simply not just a military victory, but it was a deity victory. You see this, and we talked about this, in the Philistines, when they take the Ark of the Covenant and put it in the temple of Dagon. They put it at the feet of Dagon. The next morning they come in, and Dagon is on the floor, prostrate before the Ark. Well, you can't have that. So they put him back up. You notice what the text says again in 1 Samuel. It says the next time they come in, and the head and hands are snapped in such a way they can never be repaired. Prostrate on the floor before the ark. And after that happened, they sent the ark down the road because that kind of freaked them out. So they sent it to Gath, where the giants lived. And after there was that Gath and they all got sick, they sent that ark anywhere other than there. They started sending it to Ekron. And then they said, no. You can't stay here. Don't care where it goes, but it can't stay here. And that's when they do the whole mice and the golden tumors, and they put it on a cart, and they put the cart with an ox and send it home. It's a very interesting story. It's over in 1 Samuel. But what happens is the belief was, if I conquer your army or conquer your nation, I have conquered your God. And Sennacherib says that. I've destroyed their gods. I've whipped their gods. And I'll whip your God when I take this city. Well, that is some arrogance, is it not? I mean, That is the epitome of arrogance. I don't think we've really seen anybody quite that arrogant. Trello, okay, but anyhow, that arrogant in a long time. To simply say, not I defy your God, but when I'm done beating you up, I will have beaten your God. Well, now here's the thing. He is the most powerful land force in the known world. Nobody can stand against him. He's already beaten up on the Egyptians. As a matter of fact, a couple of years earlier, he sacked, Memphis, sacks it, and takes the treasure out of it. He is a powerful dude.
But he's fighting against gods that are idols.
Yes, he is. And we'll see this here in a minute. We'll see this here in a minute. You can talk a great game against God, but when he shows up, the game is pretty well over. Right? And that is one thing that Christians really need to take in. It doesn't matter what the world says they're going to do to us. The God we serve has the advantage over them. I think in a newsletter I said, we had that cliche, 1 plus God is a majority. The plus 1 is irrelevant. God's a majority. Your being on his side doesn't give him an added bonus. Right? It's not like Dungeons and Dragons where you get a +2 sword and you get to do +2 more damage. Yeah, that's not how that works. God in himself is a majority. So
But he wants us on his side.
it's helpful. Yeah, it is. Because if you're on the other side, the whooping you're going to get is very interesting. The phraseology here, the virgin daughter of Zion. A lot of folks want to tie this back to Isaiah 7:14. In a lot of cases, what the imagery is here is the Assyrians were known for their violent acts. And one of the things that the Assyrians do, and you're seeing this with ISIS, and you're seeing this with a lot of radical Muslims, is one of the terror weapons they like to use is rape. It's a weapon of terror. And that's kind of the analogy is what's going on here. You have surrounded the city. You have followed like you would follow a woman for the right opportunity to attack and take advantage of her. Is one of the ways to look at this. You've approached, you've blasted, you've raised your voice, and haughtily lifted up your eyes against the Holy One of Israel. Get a sense that something negative is about ready to be said to him? Though your servants have reproached the Lord, and you have said, with many of chariots I came to the heights of the mountains. So I've come up to the height, Jerusalem is a very high point, to the remotest part of Lebanon. I cut down all of its tall cedars and its choice cypress, and I will go to its highest peak and its thickest forest. I dug wells and drank the water, and with the sole of my feet I dried up all the rivers of Egypt. Now that is a feat. I mean,
This is what he said, his feet.
yeah, that dude has some gall, does he not? Have you not heard? Long ago, I did it. From ancient times, I planned it. And now, I have brought it to pass. That you should turn fortified cities into ruinous heaps. Therefore, their inhabitants were short of strength. They were dismayed and put to shame. They were as vegetation as the field, as the green herb, as the grass on the housetop is scorched before the growing sun. Let's take a look at it for a second here. This is God's reproach back to Sennacherib. Have you not heard long ago? I did it. From ancient times, I planned it. This event, this little showdown at Jerusalem, was not something there God was watching TV and went, oh my gosh, Jerusalem is surrounded. I got to take some action. See, that's deism. Deism is the belief that God gets busy and then he kind of forgets about the world and he's preoccupied with other things. And we utilize deism when we pray. Well, God, I would pray, but God's pretty busy. So I don't know if he'll hear my prayers. You see this with folks going, was God unaware when 9/11 happened? No, he's painfully aware when 9/11 happened. Matter of fact, he was there when 9/11 happened. And we knew 9/11 was going to come. Here's the thing. Knew that it was going to occur before he created this old world. Why? Because he is both the beginning and the end of time. He is a timeless entity. He is also an atemporal entity. So 1866 and now are occurring instantaneously to God, which is hard for us to get because we are linearly based, but he is not. planned this long ago. You think you are the greatest thing since butter and bread. But listen, brother, this is all part of a plan that I have put in motion. Now there's comfort in that, and there's fear in that. The comfort in that is that there are things that happen that we may not know the answer to, but God already knows the answer to and already knows the outcome to, and our worry about it will not change it one step at all, right? And so there's comfort in knowing that God has the plan and He knows what's going on. It's kind of like when I was a young kid and I was scared of the dark and my dad would walk with me. I had little to fear, because when you're a kid, your dad can stop bullets with a toothpick, right? He'll catch him with his teeth and put him in a gun and shoot him back at the bad guys. Your dad is unstoppable. I wasn't afraid to walk in the dark. But my dad, when he would send me down to the gate, and it was probably from here to the fellowship hall to open for my mom when she was getting off work, it terrified me to walk in the dark from that far. Because we lived in the middle of nowhere. And a lot can happen in the middle of nowhere. And then we lived in Mississippi at the time, and there was a swamp thing that attacked the local gas station. And we lived near a swamp. What if the swamp thing attacked me? My dad would beat it up, but me? No chance, I'm 5. Right? So there's great comfort in knowing that everything is in God's control. The problem is we look at it as though everything is new to God. Or we have that ability to look through that lens and go, oh, God, do you not see? Have you not heard? Long ago I did it. From ancient times I planned it. And now, and here's the haunting thing. If you're Sennacherib, this ought to haunt you. I've planned this long ago. I have set this trap for you long before you were even a thought. Long before Daddy Sennacherib ever thought about having Sennacherib Jr. I planned this. I've held this. I've waited for this. And now I'm going to exercise this. Almost as haunting as mene, mene, tekel, and farson. You have been weighed, you have been measured, and you have been found wanting. Imagine God saying that to you. That is a terrifying statement. To me, it scares me to death. I have planned this, and now I have brought it to pass. Therefore, their inheritance was short in strength. They were dismayed. 27. They were as vegetation in the field or green herbs on the housetops that is scorched before the sun. But I know you are sitting down and you're going. I know you're sitting down and you're going out and you're coming in and you're raging against me. Now he's talking to Sennacherib. But again, the same comfort. I know your goings ins and I know you're coming out. I know when you get up in the morning, if you get up in the morning, if I let you get up in the morning. And I know when you put your head down on the pillow, if I let you put your head down on the pillow. See, James makes that point. Hey, let us go to another city and let us go make a lot of money. And James says, if the Lord wills, you will go. See, we aren't guaranteed any more than what we have. I'll give you an example. My first day in seminary was a Tuesday, about 15 years ago. Next night was a Wednesday night, and a lunatic in Fort Worth walked in with a handgun and shot the girl that was sitting next to me in class. We had talked about what we were going to do for the whole semester, and she was kind of cute, and I was thinking about asking her out. And the good thing, well, not good thing she got shot. That'd be horrible. But I wouldn't have married Stephanie. It could have changed. But she thought she had a whole life ahead of her. The next day, she was dead. God knew her going ins and going out. He knows Sennacherib. Hey, look, I know that you crushed my cities. I know you've taken the 10 northern tribes because I've allowed it. See, there's great comfort in that, but there's also great warning in that. You have tested my patience. You have pushed the envelope. Because you rage against me and because your arrogance has come up to my ears. Therefore, I will put my hook into your nose and my bridle in your lips, and I will turn you back by the way which you came. Hook in the nose was something they put into bulls to be able to control them. The bridle was something you put in a horse, if you don't understand that. I figure most of you do. was to control the animal. You are a great, great man. You are the greatest man. Your kingdom stretches from Iran and Iraq all the way into Turkey, all the way down to Egypt, and all that mess there. You're a great and powerful man. But I'm going to treat you like a beast of burden, and I'm going to turn you around and send you home. I'm going to beat you severely. Then it shall be the sign for you, you will eat this year what grows itself, and the second year what springs up for the same, and in the third year sow and reap and plant vineyards and eat fruit. The surviving remnant of the house of Judah will again take root downward and bear fruit upward. You will still have a kingdom. It will still grow. He does. His kingdom lasts. His kingdom he will be defeated in Judah. He will go back. He will retain control of the northern tribes. He will retain control of the kingdom that he has. He's going to have all that, but he will suffer a great defeat in Judah, and we will see this here in a minute. But the remnant in Judah, the people that have remained, because you've conquered and crushed Lachish, and you've hauled those people off as slaves. You've taken Timnah, you've hauled those people off as slaves. You've taken Nob, and you've taken those people off as slaves. And he lists the cities that he destroyed, and you've taken those off into slavery. But the remnant that is in Jerusalem will stay. And notice what it says. They will take root downward and bear fruit upward. They will grow deeply and produce good fruit. This is before they rebel, and in 586 the Babylonians destroy them. Therefore, thus said the Lord concerning the king of Assyria, he will not come to this city or shoot an arrow there. He will not come before it with a shield or throw a siege ramp against it. And that's pretty well the case of what occurs. By the way he came, the same he will return, and he will not come. I've got the same thing here? Okay. Did I read that verse twice? Nope. By the way he came, and by the same way he will return, and he will not come into the city, declares the Lord. Why? For I will defend this city and save it for my own sake, and for the sake of my servant David's sake. I, the Lord, will defend this city. Not by strength of arms, not by power. For whose sake? Well, one is for the king of David. Why? Who comes through David's line? Jesus. Even now you see how this is all being worked out to bring something else. But Jerusalem will eventually be destroyed, but the line of David will not. But at this moment in time, because of Hezekiah's prayer, the Lord himself is going to interject into this situation physically and will defend his city. Let's take a look at this here in a minute. Then the angel of the Lord went out and struck 185,000 encamped Assyrians, and the men who rose early in the morning, behold, all of these who were dead. Now, how many people were in the army? We don't know. But if you wake up and 185,000 of your brothers are dead, and it happened during the night, you ain't staying. Right? That's a terrifying concept. You are not staying. Behold, all of these were dead. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed and returned home and lived at Nineveh. That's a polite way of saying he beat a hasty retreat. And it came about that he was worshiping at his house and of Nishrod, his god, and Adramelech and Shazar the son killed him with the sword, and they escaped to the land of Arad. And Ereshadad the son became king. Did he escape God's judgment? His army was suffered a severe blow. 185,000 men. 185,000 men, that's a lot of guys. That's a lot of ground troops. And so he goes and returns to Nineveh, thinks he's escaped, and then he is assassinated and killed. Now here's a question. You can get into this discussion here. Who is this individual known as the angel of the Lord?
His name is Angel of the Lord.
Well, that would be a good guess there, Brother Si. Is he an angel? Some say yes. Okay. Who thinks it's an angel? Raise your hand. Who thinks it's not an angel? Okay. I got 1, 2, 3. And myself.
The Bible says it's an angel, so it's got to be an angel. The angel of Jesus Christ.
It is the angel of the Lord, but the Bible also describes to us who this angel is in other passages. Tells us exactly who he is. Nope. No, it doesn't.
They're the only two that are names are mentioned.
Satan was an angel.
Satan was an angel. Remember, close. It is the second person of the triune God. It is Jesus himself. Yes. This is Old Testament terminology. Yeah, that's exactly. You were on the right place. It is Jesus himself in the physical form in the Old Testament. There's what we call, and we're going to look at this and explain it and go through why. We're going to look at several verses. We're going to look in Judges. Judges gives the best example of who this individual is. Balaam runs into this guy. He's all over the place. Remember, if you were here with Mark, we talked about the Son of Man theology and how a lot of people assume that Son of Man means Jesus' humanity, but actually it refers to his deity. It's actually Jewish code language for Jesus' deity. And you go to Daniel 7:14, it says, "Behold, I looked and see the ancient days, and one like the Son of Man came and sat down next to him, and to him was given dominion, power, and authority." Those aren't humanity traits. Those are deity traits. Same phraseology. The angel of the Lord is a very unique character, and it is a physical representation. The Jews would look at this as what we would call a theophany. A theophany. A physical representation of God in the Old Testament. The burning bush is a theophany. Okay? And I heard the Lord speak from the whirlwind. Theophany. This could be a theophany. It classifies as a theophany, but there's a subcategory called a Christophany. And why do we make this distinction? Which member of the Trinity takes physical form? Jesus. The only one that ever takes physical form. And so while a lot of evangelicals do go, theophanies are non-physical representations of the Godhead. Christophanies are the physical representation. Melchizedek, who comes and talks to Abram. Many people say this is a Christophany. This is the pre-incarnate Christ in physical form talking to Abram. You see this individual show up at the Battle of Jericho when Joshua says, "Are you friend or foe?" And he says, "I am the captain of the army of hosts." Many scholars believe that is a Christophany. When Jacob wrestles with the angel, that is a Christophany. We're going to look at who this angel of the Lord is. Look up here in Judges. Or on your page, Judges chapter 6. This is the story of Gideon. Judges chapter 6, verse 11. We're going to see how we start to break this down. Because while a lot of times we read this and go, "Well, it was an angel." Is it? Because there's a distinct flavor between the two words. An angel of the Lord is an angel. The angel of the Lord is a unique individual, and he has a unique set of properties that are divine in nature. Begins with, then... Judges 6:11. Then the angel of the Lord came and sat under the yoke, which was in Orpha, which belonged to the Joash, the Azabrazite, the son of Gideon, who was beating out wheat in a wine press. Futile effort right there in itself. If you've ever seen an old wine press, you know. The angel of the Lord appeared to him and said to him, "The Lord is with you, O valiant warrior." Gideon said to him, "Oh, my Lord." Now, or you could write this, "Dear sir." I think the NIV references that way. "Dear sir," or "but sir. If the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all the miracles which our fathers told us about? Did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hand of Midian." I know there's a lot there, but to set the stage, if I cut any out, that way you can see that I'm not cutting it. The Lord, wait a second. Then the angel of the Lord came and sat under the oak tree. The Lord looked at him and said. Then the angel of the Lord came and sat under the... So who is this cat, the angel of the Lord? And the text right here readdresses him as the Lord. And it says to him, "Go in your strength and deliver Israel from the hand of Midian. Have I not sent you?" And he said to him, "O Lord, how shall I deliver Israel? Behold, my family is the least in Manasseh, and I am the youngest in my father's house." But the Lord said to him, "Surely I will be with you, and you will defeat Midian as one man." So Gideon said to him, "If I have found favor in your sight, then show me a sign that it is you who speak with me." You who? The Lord. And you go, "Well, I'm not convinced." Don't worry. Well, we'll get there. "Please do not depart from here until I come back, and I will bring you an offering and lay it before you." I will bring you an offering. Circle that. "And then I will lay it before you." Circle that. "I will remain until you return." And then Gideon went and prepared a young goat and unleavened bread and an ephod of flour, and brought the meal in a basket and broth in a pot, and brought them to him under the oak, and presented to them. And the angel of God, now he's come back to the angel of God. So he's the angel of the Lord, the angel of God, said to him, "Take the meat and the unleavened bread and lay it on the rock and pour it out in the broth." And he did so. Then the angel of the Lord, his name shifts again, put out the end of his staff, which was in his hand, and he touched the meat and the unleavened bread, and fire sprang up from the rock and consumed the meat and the unleavened bread. Then the angel of the Lord vanished from his sight. Do angels accept offerings? Are you allowed as a Jew to offer any sacrifice to anyone?
They were all to the Lord.
All to God. Every one of them was to God. It's blasphemous to offer to anyone else. So who is this character? He's the Lord. Keep going down. When Gideon saw that it was the angel of the Lord, he says, "Alas, O Lord God, for now I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face." The Lord said to him, "Peace be to you, do not be afraid, you shall not die. I have seen the angel of the Lord, and I will die." Moses asked God if he can see him, and God's response to Moses was, "No man has seen me and lives." So when these people realize who they have seen, they know what God has said to Moses, and what is their immediate reaction? "I'm going to die in a fiery death." You say, "Well, I'm not really convinced." I'm glad you're not, because I got another set of verses to go through. Maybe you are convinced. I'm just going to roll on the fact that you're not. Yeah, Walter.
You said there's the angel of the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
a angel of the Lord. Is the Lord capitalized on both of those, or is it a small L?
I would think that it would be capitalized on both of those because you are referencing God himself.
Like up there, it is.
Yep.
But like when he talks about a angel of the Lord,
I think it's upper cap L-O-R-D.
both of them capitalized?
No, it'd be an angel, upper cap L, lowercase O-R-D, Lord.
So that'd be a small L.
I think. No, it'd be a capital L. Capital L. So I'd have to look. I should have pulled up an example of an angel of the Lord, but I didn't. But in this case, Lord is always all caps. Always. And if it's referenced to God, the deity of the deity side, it will always be in all caps. So let's pick up in Judges 13:11, which is why I provided them for you. Now the sons of Israel again did evil in the sight of the Lord. So the Lord gave them into the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. There was a certain man of Zorah, from the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren, and she had borne no children. No joke. You ever wanted to write in the side, I got it. She was barren because she had no kids. Right? I was watching a video today, it goes, I am the ocean. I am water. And I almost wanted to say, and I bet you're wet. Well, duh. That statement, the first statement presumes the second statement. I am the ocean. You are water. You got to be. You're the ocean. It's true.
I wonder why, and
Yeah.
in a lot of places that shows up, that the woman is barren.
A lot of times barrenness is seen as God's punishment on a woman. But if you look at the Bible accounts, most of the women that are barren are opportunities for great miracles to occur. Here with Manoah's wife, with Hannah, with Rahab, or not Rahab, sorry, with Ruth, with Sarah, with, goodness, there's a couple, yeah. That's in the New Testament, though. So staying with the Old Testament. So you see this as a good example. Elizabeth was barren, and now she's not. These are all great signs of which God does something fantastic through a barren woman. And so there's a source of comfort, I think, for some women that are having trouble having children. I think sometimes, though, we try to manipulate that a little bit further too much in our day than what the Bible is doing, because it doesn't. Not every barren woman in the Old Testament ended up with kids. Just the ones which God actively involved with ended up with kids. You see what I'm saying? And so, but it's to society. And you see this when the disciples ask, Lord, who sinned, his mom or his dad, when the guy was blind? Because they see barrenness as a sign of divine judgment, or blindness from birth as a sign of divine, or being crippled. We know now that really, sometimes it is, and sometimes, people are born that way. And God gives them the grace to live through those things. But notice that usually when a woman is born of a barren woman, someone great comes along. Samson comes from this woman. Samuel comes from Hannah. Israel comes from Sarah. John the Baptist comes from Elizabeth. So there's always this very strong example of this woman isn't a sinner. She is someone set aside for a particular purpose, and bam, there it is. And you figure the Jews would lock onto that. But, not so much. Just like you figure we would lock onto that, and not so much. Right? Then the angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said, I love how it addresses her as the woman. Right? It's always it's like Tarzan, boy. Right? Tarzan has a boy, and he calls him boy. Now, that kid grew up with a complex, right? Should have hit him with a rolled up newspaper. It would have been better. The leaves, banana peel, something. Then the angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said, Behold, now you are barren and have borne no children, but you shall conceive and give birth to a son. Phraseology sounds familiar, doesn't it? Now, therefore, be careful not to drink wine or strong drink or eat any unclean thing. For behold, you shall conceive and give birth to a son, and no razor shall come upon his head. For the boy shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel from the hands of the Philistines. Then the woman came to her husband and told him, saying, A man of God, not an angel, a man of God came and came to me, and his appearance was like the appearance of the angel of God. Notice the phraseology there. Very awesome. And I did not ask him where he came from, nor did he tell me his name. Let's just say it's an angel. Do you really got to ask where the angel came from? I mean, think about that. That's kind of a crazy statement, right? I didn't ask him where he came from. Isaiah likes to word things, but this is Judges, and so you look at it, you're like going, you're not looking real swift here, wife. Nor what his name was. Well, I would be, look, if someone walked in and they were bright, shiny white, and they started talking to me, telling me I'm going to have a kid, I probably would need a doctor.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and a change of clothes. And probably not in that order.
But I wonder if he showed up that way, or if he had a body, if he looked like a person.
Since I hold that these are Christophanies, he has a physical body, and so.
Yeah, I mean, he could be.
Yeah.
Like any other person.
He could. But but notice the phraseology all around. His appearance was very awesome. Now, either he was like the most handsome dude that walked. Yeah, like me. Not really. But there's always something about their countenance that identifies them. Abraham knew exactly who he was talking to when they came in and offers a sacrifice to him. And you see this with Gideon. And so there's something about them that gives them away that they're something other than what we are. But he said to me, behold, you shall conceive and give birth, son, and now you shall not drink wine or strong drink, which gets away with that kegger they were playing that weekend, nor eat any unclean thing, so no shrimp boils or anything like that, for the boy was to be a Nazirite from God from the womb to the day of his death. Then Manoah entreated the Lord and said, O Lord, please let this man of God whom you have come and sent tell us that he may teach us what to do. Typical guy, right, ladies? Lord, I don't know what you said to her, and it got messed up. So if you could come and tell me, I'll make it happen. All right? She didn't even know where you came from. Just say it. I'm just kidding. And God listened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of the Lord came again to the woman. And as she was sitting in the field, but Manoah, her husband, was not with her. So she ran quickly and got her husband. Behold, the man whom came the other day has appeared to me. Notice the phraseology. The man who appeared the other day. Then Manoah arose and followed his wife. And when he came to the man, he said to him, are you the man that spoke to my woman? Or to the woman? This guy's great, isn't he? Well, I don't think we ever find out what her name is. No, we do. And Manoah said, now, when your words... Verse 27. What is it? Are you the one? He said, I am. Which is an interesting phraseology, is it not? Who does Jesus refer to himself?
I am the great I am.
When Moses said, who shall I say sent me? Who shall I tell them? I am who I am has sent you. Manoah said, now when your words come to pass, that the boy... what shall the boy's mode of life and his vocation? Is he going to be a farmer? Is he going to be a carpenter? What's he going to be? He's going to be a drunkard and a womanizer, but then he's going to kill a bunch of Philistines.
He's going to have long hair.
And he's going to have long hair. So the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, let the woman pay attention to all that I said. She should not eat anything. Now this is the third time this has been given, right? Manoah's pretty thick. And fellas, this is just a great point that if we just listen to our wives the first time, we won't have to have it repeated to us 3 times. She should not eat anything that comes from the vine, nor strong drink, nor drink wine, or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. Again, your keggers and your lobster and your crab boils, done. No. Let her observe all that I command her. Then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, please let us detain you that I may prepare a young goat for you. The angel of the Lord said to Manoah, though you detain me, I will not eat your food, but if you prepare a burnt offering and offer it to the Lord, for Manoah did not know that he was the angel of the Lord. That's strange phraseology, is it not? Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, what is your name? So that when your word comes to pass, we may honor you. But the angel of the Lord said to him, why do you ask my name, seeing that it is... Is Jesus called Wonderful?
Yes.
In the book of Isaiah. So Manoah took the young goat and the grain offering, and he offered very much similar to what Gideon does, right? And put it on a rock. Very much similar. And offered it to the Lord, and he performed wonders. Notice the phraseology shift there. So Manoah took the young goat with the grain offering and offered it on a rock to the Lord. And he, right? So when you have "and he," the antecedent to the "and he" would be Lord performed wonders while Manoah and his wife looked on. For it came about when the flame went up from the altar towards heaven, the angel of the Lord ascended in a flame on the altar. And Manoah and his wife saw this and fell on the face of the ground. Now the angel of the Lord did not appear to Manoah and his wife again. Then Manoah knew that it was the angel of the Lord. So Manoah said, "We're going to die, for we have seen" whom? If you weren't convinced from Judges chapter 7, kind of hard to argue with 7 and 13. But his wife said, this is great, Manoah sees him, you're going to have a kid, you're going to raise him, don't eat anything. Manoah sees the situation, typical guy, we're all going to die! And here comes the wife. Baby, if the Lord had desired to kill us, would he not have accepted the burnt offering and the grain offering from our hands? And would he not shown us all these wonderful things? Nor would he let us hear the things like this at this time? Right, guys? We've all been on that end of the conversation, right? If the Lord, not if the angel of the Lord. Who is this individual? He's not an angel. Ever. Ever. It is a unique phraseology that they understand as a physical representation of the second person of the triune God. We see him as Melchizedek. We see him as the man who wrestles with Gideon. We see him as the captain of the army of hosts. We see him as the angel of the Lord. Sennacherib's army engaged the second person of the triune God. In a very short period of time, he wiped the floor with 185,000, and he could have killed more. He wanted to make a point. When he stands on the cross, being nailed to the tree, and they laugh at him and mock him, folks, they do not realize that the individual on that tree could have wiped them from the face of the earth with a thought. This is the same guy who just a few verses earlier said, I have planned this eons ago. I've planned it, I've set it in motion, and I have come for you. Any Rambo fans in here? Rambo number 2? Murdoch. Murdoch. I'm coming for you. Cool guy music. Dun, 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 right? And everybody thinks, yeah! Right? And he does, right? Well, Sylvester Stallone is a steroid guy and with a lot of rage. He's not the second person of the triune God. And Sennacherib introduces it, gets plenty of this. Isn't it amazing, folks? This was a powerful army. This was a massive army. This was an army that had subdued all of the known Middle East world, not the Greeks, not the Romans, but all the way down into Egypt. And everybody was afraid of them. And in an overnight period of time, took out the greatest army in the world. Because he said, my city, I will defend myself. And I will not let a bow shoot an arrow towards it. I will not let a siege ramp come against it. I will not let a shield or a sword or a spear be drawn against it. Why? This is my city, and I protect it. You are his, too. You are his people. And while you go through troubles and trials and all things like that, you are going through things that God says, I have allowed this and planned this from the beginning, and I have this under control, and the person that comes against you may rattle his saber and things may look bleak, but what has been planned, and I will protect my people. Now sometimes that protection is just like the 21 Coptic Christians, and he took them all home. And he protects them now. Sometimes we see it physically. Huh? And Egypt went to war. She's the same God. same loving God. Questions? Because we got like 15 minutes.
No, I don't think we have to be afraid of ISIS because we'll take care of it.
The God we serve.
Yeah, I think the ISIS guys who claim that they will blow up the White House and come to America and kill people are greatly overestimating the God in whom we serve. Now, the problem is, as a nation, though, as a whole, much like the Jews at this time, they had abandoned much of what God wanted from their nation. We as a Christian, we're no longer a Christian nation. We're now a secularized nation, and that have Christians in it, just like just about every other nation in the world. And so there's an opportunity, and even in this mess, because even after this happens, there's a bit of a revival in this time. Josiah becomes king eventually in about 612, and there's a revival again before he's killed in 609. And so the Jews go through a period of mini revival, but they don't fully revive. There's still that rebellious group, but the remnant remains. And God maintains the remnant, and He pulls it out, and He takes it into Babylonian captivity, and then He returns that remnant back under Nehemiah, and that remnant continues to grow, and that remnant never again gets into pagan worship. The Jews get very strict, which is why you end up with the Pharisees and the Sadducees keeping very strict rules, which is why when Jesus comes, man, no. Very strict, very strict. Because they don't want to go back into captivity again. That's so shaped them. Think about it. If we were to ever cease to be as a nation, but yet we were still alive and see it happen, and we served ISIS as our masters, but then we threw them off, that would so shape our thinking for another couple hundred years. See it?
Couldn't do it from God.
Huh?
And we could use a new White House.
We could. It's getting a little old. It needs to be updated. Maybe paint it pink or something. Give it a little more flair.
Go in.
No, not quite that far.
It's got a Korean in it.
It does. Other questions?
Would that not be God's plan?
Yeah, I think so. Well, God tells us that He raises up.
You know, if from one side of our mouth, we say that everything that happens, no matter how insignificant we might think it is, it is God's plan.
Right. And see, here's
And so, you know, if we preach that,
yeah, and here lies the
then
tension.
we can't stand and then say, you know, like what you just said, why don't we put a Koran in the White House or wherever? Well, you know, if that's God's plan, then I can't say, well, you know, I don't think we can allow God to do that.
Right.
Because we just don't know what that plan is.
Exactly. And here's the thing.
Fortunately, we don't know what it is.
We don't know what the plan is, and this is always the tension when you get verses like this, because there are a lot of verses that talk about God having unalterable courses of action. I have the king's heart in my hand, and I channel it how I want it to go. Very, very strong in his language. The king does as I wish. I've put leaders in charge, and they rule because I've placed them there. Saddam Hussein, King George, all down the list. And so you have this side, and then you have the other side that seems where there are opportunities for human initiative or human action. And so how do these two mesh without stepping one upon the other? And this has always been the tension the church has always had. And what I do is when I end up in a situation where I cannot see how this has a benefit, I rest that God is in total control of the situations, and that while my actions He may use to bring out an event, and I think I make the actions, that God is in control. And then there's other times where I can definitely see that I think God has allowed me the opportunity to run wild for a purpose. Now the purpose was a planned purpose, but the actions that I commit, just like when the Assyrians come in, the Assyrians are punished not because they do what God tells them to do, but because the malevolence which they bring to the situation. You see what I'm saying? And so there's always this tension within the text of total control, yet human initiative. You see what I'm saying? I'm leery to say free will, because free instantates moral capability of discovering right and wrong. I believe that man has a will. We do things, and we do things through our will. And sometimes it acts freely, and sometimes it acts very malevolently, right? And we do things that aren't very free. And so I believe mankind has a will, that the will that man has, he has because our will is in bondage to sin. If it could be free, then it could choose to follow God without Christ coming. So it's always in bondage to sin. And so that's why Christ comes to change the will. That being said, you have that flux back and forth, and this is where you have people discussing events on trying to figure out how exactly God can foreordain and foreknow and yet not step on man's ability to be an interactive player and a robot. You see what I'm saying? So, that's a good point. You had a hand up, somebody? I saw movement. Okay. Questions more? Because I still got 10 minutes. Or I could let you go 10 minutes early. It doesn't matter to me. I don't, I'm on salary, so I get, I'm kidding.
In our Sunday school class,
Yes.
we've been studying all these kings from Persia that took the Israelites
Yeah.
as slaves.
Yeah,
And God used them
he did.
in many
Yep.
instances and allowed his people to benefit from those people that were.
Absolutely. And what comes out of that is what we call the diaspora. And diaspora is basically a Greek terminology. It means that the Jews were scattered. The Assyrians were the first to practice. They were lethal at destroying nations. They would come in they basically obliterate the 10 northern tribes. They come in, they take a lot of the Jews out of this region, and they scatter them all over the world. And then what they do is they take people from the towns that they put the Jews in, and they put them in Israel. And the reason being is there's no common language, there's no common heritage, there's no common religion, there's no common anything. These people all now have to work together because they have to pay taxes to the Assyrians. And if they don't, the Assyrians have a way of fixing that. They come in and they kill you. They're kind of like the Tony Soprano of the Middle East.
And then the Romans did the
And then the
same.
Romans.
The Romans did, but the Romans allowed autonomous rule. They don't. The Romans lived by this motto: I don't want to run your business until I have to run your business, and then when I run your business, I'm going to run your business, and you're going to do what I tell you to do. Because they did that with Herod the Great. They let Herod the Great rule, but when Antipas got in charge, they went, "This dude's a nut," and they sent Pontius Pilate down. And they sent a few other Roman governors to come to take care of that situation. Because if they have to get in your business, they will get in your business and they will run your world. They don't want to. A great example, when in the Maccabean War, the Maccabees had so beat up on the Seleucid Greeks, which is the descendants of the Alexanders, that they had pushed them back. Well, the Ptolemaic Greeks, which are semi-related, began to come against the Hasmoneans, which is basically the Maccabees. The Roman emissary, just the Roman emissary, steps out onto the battlefield and draws a circle around the lead general of the Ptolemaic army. And he says, before you step out of this circle, you have two options. Turn your army around, or I'll destroy you. Now, he has no army behind him. He just has the power of Rome behind him. And the Ptolemaic army turns around and goes home. Because the Romans were the baddest kid on the block. And you didn't mess with them. So, it's a different way of governing. The Babylonians would come in and uproot you, but allow you to maintain your culture. And the Medo-Persians did the same thing. They would uproot you, but they would allow, and they began sending them back. Because they realized that in sending them back, they would win the hearts and minds of people. Because they were the hearts and mind people. They were still brutal people. But they liked self-autonomous rule because it's easy. It's easier. And I don't have to station troops there. You'll rule yourself, and if you get out of hand, I'll come, and then I'll put troops there. So.
Moses, when he's in Egypt,
Yeah.
he's is allowed to be in the palace of
That's right.
that have different.
And a lot of that, think about this. Moses is credited for writing the first 5 books of the Bible. Where would Moses get a lot of that information? That'd be recorded. The Egyptians had a long history of existence and would have had a record of Abraham coming. And so a lot of scholars say that what God did was place him there to where he could have archival information, because he would have studied all that. He would have studied the history of Egypt. That had been part of his basic training as a young boy. And so he would have possessed a great deal of knowledge just there in that ability. So it's a nice theory. You can't prove it. It's a nice theory. You can't prove it. It's a nice theory, and I like it. So I roll with it. Questions?
But Moses had, what did he stutter or just?
I think Moses, like most guys that God calls into ministry that go, you've seen me talk, right? I mean, when God called, I remember I was a machinist. I was standing in front of a lathe, and I kept being bugged by something, and I said, "Okay, God, what is?" And it was, "I want you to be a pastor." And I'm an introvert. Are you on dope? Are you sure? I'm an introvert by nature. My greatest joy in life is to go home, close the door to my room, and watch TV. Yeah, me. Can you believe that? I love people from a distance. I'm kidding. The job has, what I've done as a chaplain, as a minister, has moved me more extrovert, but I still have a lot of introvert nature where there gets to be a point during the week where I have to be away from people, otherwise people will go away from me.
Everybody needs a little privacy.
No, I mean, I'm not talking a little, Brother Si. I'm talking about,
You want to be alone.
I want to be alone, and I'm going to hurt your feelings if you don't let me be alone. So, any other questions? Preferably not about me.
Well, that's why God created Aaron.
He did. But notice Aaron doesn't do any speaking. Moses says, "I can't speak." Aaron goes, "Okay, I'll send Aaron." And then Aaron never talks. I mean, I'd feel so gypped if I was Aaron, right? Moses. Dude, I was supposed to talk for you. God gave that to me. I just shared it with you. You're one-upping me with the boss. There's always one in a company, right? You share a great idea with somebody, and then he says it like it's his. You're like, "Dude, you got that for me."
Because your big brother doesn't.
Yeah. He'll take you out. Because Mom likes you best. She put you in a basket. You were adopted for a while. Any other requests? Any other things to talk about? All right. Let's pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to look at your text and see another facet of your Son's person, who even in the Old Testament, where we think that Jesus is nearly nothing more than a New Testament creation for some folks, for a New Testament entity, yet throughout the Old Testament we have seen his hands, we have seen his physical form minister and appear to men in the Old Testament of old as assurance and validity of the fact that we worship a triune God who has always existed as the three in one, who is sovereign and yet allows for human initiative, who is all-powerful and yet compassionate and loving and faithful to His Word. We thank you that you have brought us to salvation. We ask for your continued watch care over us. We ask for your continued blessing on us as we leave here. We thank you for the workers over in Awana who are doing your work with young souls and for the ministry that comes out of that. And we thank you for their time and dedication they put into it. And we ask for your continued blessings on them. Continue to be with Skyline Baptist as we continue to progress in the many areas that you have given to us. And that we may be a voice to this community and a voice to this state. We ask for your continued blessings on us as we leave here. And all these things we pray. Amen. All right. Huh? What?